Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I can see you all. Did everybody have a good lunch? Yeah, you're smiling. I don't see anybody in a food coma right now. That's good. What have we been eating for lunch the past 3 days? A man came up to me and asked me that today. He said, "Are you going to have curry today?" Because in one of the panel discussions earlier today, we were talking about e-commerce, and I said, well, if a company is having a problem with e-commerce, delivering food, or a restaurant, they end up with curry on their face, in their face. And a man came up to me this afternoon and he said, "Mr. Goff, are you going to have curry in your face today?" So at least he was paying attention at the panel discussions today. We've got a great lineup for you this afternoon. This is the final afternoon session for the CBIT Global Conferences here in India. And something that we heard yesterday and on Wednesday is that existing IT infrastructures consume about 70 to 80% of the IT budget for most companies. That's a lot. That leaves, 10, 20% for companies to experiment, to innovate, to do new things. At the same time, the infrastructure is getting more complex by the day, handling everyday security threats. You have to comply with regulatory frameworks. There's this ubiquitous computing that we've heard about, and you have to manage, of course, unbalanced workloads in the company. So how do you build a digital enterprise if you don't own the IT infrastructure? Well, our next keynote speaker has some ideas and maybe has some solutions for you. So please help me welcome the Managing Director at NxtGen Datacenter, Mr. A.S. Rajgopal. Give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Brian.
Welcome. Hey, welcome.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. Is it too loud? Okay, these are the times when you actually convert an idea into a business in about 90 to 120 days. Gone are the days when you had years to prepare. You do market surveys, you rope in all your engineering teams together, a lot of R&D happens, and people build products and businesses and services around. But these are the times have changed. So time from idea to media, which is when you announce your product, is typically about 90 to 120 days. But what this is doing is that it is putting so much pressure on your IT departments that they're getting defensive. When they get defensive, what they do is they prepare for these bursts of activity, so they splurge. So what's been happening in a lot of enterprises across the world is that IT departments have been building infrastructure and keeping it ready for businesses to grow. But these are the days when you can't actually predict, in the sense that, how much would it really start off with and how fast it will grow and stuff like that. It's very, very difficult to predict. So it is actually resulting in a lot of, infrastructure wastage. What happens is that when you have so much of infrastructure, you're building over a period of time, you actually end up spending a lot of money trying to make this infrastructure work. So today, most enterprises across the world are actually spending 70 to 80% of their IT budgets just keeping the infrastructure going. This includes your manpower costs, your maintenance costs, and all the other associated costs together. The upgrades of the infrastructure and new applications, the maintenance of that is just about 25%. So what is left for any enterprise to actually take up a new initiative and make it a success is a minuscule. It is roughly about 2-3%. In most cases, it doesn't exceed 5%. So when we are talking to customers, we're telling them the biggest chunk that is going is the infrastructure cost. So can you save about 30-40% from it so that you can create some bandwidth in terms of a budget and your resources so that you can pick up and do certain new initiatives, especially those initiatives that can impact the new age developments in the marketplaces today. So ladies and gentlemen, this is Rajgopal, and I was introduced earlier. but I saw some people walking in. We want to talk about a situation where let's not try and save money from the infrastructure and then create budgets for new initiatives. Let's get rid of infrastructure totally. So can you build a digital enterprise without actually owning infrastructure? So what I wanted to do today was try and tell you about what we did for few customers and how it can help you in actually conceiving this plan that you can actually build an infrastructure without buying IT at all, IT hardware at all. We at NxtGen, we call ourselves, hyper-converged infrastructure service provider. That means we've converged more or less all the infrastructure pieces together and made sure that we are able to provide infinite possibilities to you so that you can really envisage various scenarios for your business and your infrastructure grows with it or shrinks with the way it moves. The way we have conceived this actually impressed Gartner. In 2014, we've been identified as a cool vendor. Gartner believes that our vision for the medium to long term is pretty intact. What we do is that today we are able to do infrastructure at customer premises and also provide infrastructure at our premises and build elasticity between these two so that we can handle various scenarios of elastic requirements. Let's say you need more resources, you can leverage from our infrastructure which is hosted here, or you want to do a DR, so you replicate your infrastructure which is on-premise and move it into our premises. The other things that we can do is that we can help you take those first steps into the cloud world, keeping all the investments that you've made so far and carrying it along into the journey of building an infinite data center. So as I said, we'll talk about some customer examples. We're talking here about one of our premier customers, which is Reliance Entertainment. This is a company which does varied stuff in entertainment space. Of course, they also air movies, they produce movies and stuff like that. But we are engaged with the digital side of the business. Reliance Entertainment actually runs a few websites with us, I think about 190 of them as far as I remember to the last count. The notable ones are we have BigFlix, which is a clone of Netflix. You can actually see what Netflix is doing, and more or less BigFlix does the same thing. Today, a lot of users from Europe and US watch regional and Hindi movies out of BigFlix. But what we are very, very impressed with is the work that we've done for their gaming business. These are some of the games which are worldwide hits. Why is it important for us is that when a game goes live, you actually don't know. It's like a movie. You really don't know whether it will succeed or not. It is a gamble that whether it pays off or not, nobody knows till the customers start using it. So you can't anticipate the amount of resources that you really need to help this game run smoothly. Because the variance is not 10x, not 100x, but sometimes it's more than 1000x. So you are actually looking at scalabilities which are unheard of in our traditional enterprise architectures that we built our infrastructure with. So what we've done is we've actually built a cloud platform that actually scales both the network and the compute resources together so that we can take huge amount of workloads that come in. To give you a perspective, today we handle more workloads than what Flipkart handled on the billion-day sale. So we are handling roughly about 1 million connections at a given point in time, and these connections come from all over the place. More importantly, our infrastructure is catering to close to about 120,000 sessions per second, new sessions per second. That means we can onboard close to 1 lakh new users per second. That's what this infrastructure can do. So speaking about not having infrastructure, today Reliance Entertainment doesn't own any of the servers. We've provisioned it virtually. They exist as software, and we're doing all this for them. more cases, Reliance is a big company, but I thought I will anyway talk about one of the smaller companies so that we can relate to it better. Here we talk about a company called Patel Woods. Patel Woods is a Delhi-based wooden door manufacturer. So this guy actually is one of the most successful ones across the country. So he decided that, to manage his business better, they should go and invest in an ERP system. So they honed in on SAP implementation. So once the decision is made, you actually choose the partner who would implement SAP. These guys were looking for hardware to host it. So the initial estimate was that roughly about 70 lakh rupees is required to host the hardware, the SAP environment that is there. So what we did was we went to this customer and we told him that if you're buying 70 lakh rupees worth of hardware, you not only need to make that capital investment, but you have to bring in at least 4 people to manage it 24/7. Beyond that, you need to have a data center infrastructure that can host it, and then it should run 24/7 and not get and withstand all the the weather and the erratic electric supply. And you need to manage all this stuff. You don't need to do that. We actually told them we can do the same thing far more efficiently than you can do, and take the entire headache off you and give you a commitment that it will run 99.99%. And it will run your SAP smoothly. And we told them that this would cost him just 55,000 rupees. So the exact reaction of the promoter of this company is that you put that 70 lakh rupees into a fixed deposit and you pay NxtGen the interest that it accrues, because in India the interest rates are reasonably high. So the interest that it accrues, you pay to NxtGen, you have your infrastructure 24/7. So what cloud can do today is that not just make it possible that you just get rid of your hardware, you can also save tremendously on cost. Another important thing that happens here is that this customer would have spent at least 3 months trying to negotiate with many vendors. You need a storage, you need network, you need servers, you need all that stuff. He would have spent precious time trying to figure out which one is good and what is the value, etc., etc. And then it would take a month to get it delivered and another month to implement it, and that's when he goes live. So it's a 4-5 month cycle. We've kind of we made it happen in minutes. So this is what we can do with cloud infrastructure today, and it can impact a big customer like Reliance Entertainment or a small customer like Patel Woods. So much about how many customers you can handle and stuff like that. We have a classic example here, which another thing that we are pretty proud of. So today you can do a lot more on cloud than what you can do with physical hardware. So we have Department of Science and Technology in Gujarat who run some genome sequencing. So like they actually analyze plant DNA and try and figure out what are the components which are contributing to disease, and how can we modify that so that the disease doesn't attract this plant. So when they're doing all this, the basic thing that they need to do is take a look at the DNA strand. To build a DNA strand from stuff that is there, it roughly took them about 22 days to do it. So each time you want to do it, you want to create a DNA strand which you can take a look at. It used to take them 22 days. We moved them into cloud and we ran it and handed over the strand within 2.5 days. So what you can do now is that you can actually create very high performance compute system in cloud. So completing the scene here, 1, you can handle a lot of network connections. 2, you save cost. 3, you can really run high performance stuff that you actually don't require to run enterprises with. Complex example here, but I'm not going to bore you with the entire detail that is there because I know you can't read anything that is there. But what the problem that I wanted to highlight here was a lot of times when you're doing things like stuff for financial institutions, a whole lot of other customers, they kind of tell you that, is cloud secure? So normally our reaction is that security is in a manner where there have not been cases where people are running away with the servers from a data center. So data is not being physically stolen by people. People are not running away with hard drives. What is happening is there are connections that are happening from the internet, from your own private networks, which are getting into the servers and stealing data. How does that differ whether it is physical or a virtual server? Your network connections remain the same. So we tell our customers that cloud doesn't make it secure or insecure at all. So basically what it does is that if you have a good practice, we would be able to replicate it the way you would have done it in a physical environment. We can do it in virtual environment also. So the point that I wanted to make in this complex slide is, this slide is an implementation of a core banking solution for few cooperative banks. We have 4 or 5 service providers on our cloud network where these guys have put in core banking for small banks who cannot afford to buy the entire software, the licensing and go through the entire implementation cycle. So these guys make life easy for these smaller banks. So what we've done here is that we've kind of replicated what these guys would have done in a physical environment. So if you take a bank, they would have 3 security zones. The one is that the green stuff where everybody can come and go freely. There is an orange stuff where you have restricted access, like you have into this hall. And then you have this red stuff where you are not allowed, maybe compared to what it is on the stage. So it's only when you are authorized, you can access certain areas. So there are 3 different areas that needs to be implemented and whole lot of other stuff. So what this highlights is that we can replicate whatever you do in a physical environment. Today you can do it in virtual environment, but you do it in few minutes, not in terms of few months it would take to implement a typical thing in a physical environment. So what cloud does today is that it doesn't tell you to change your current architecture. It remains as is. So cloud is as flexible as you want so that you can implement your exact application architecture the way you want it, and it's just replicated in minutes, and it is secure. So what we are able to do for a bank actually comes valuable for any other enterprise that you want to do. So coming back to my argument about not having hardware or not owning IT infrastructure, today you can do a lot of network connections, you can do it cost effectively, you can do high performance computing, and you can do it securely with a lot of flexibility. But so much about the servers, right? So there are a whole lot of things that an enterprise needs. Let me give you an example of what we did for Philips. So Philips, if you've gone to any hospital, not for yourself, God forbid, basically you've gone to visit a friend, you would have seen him going through all these tests. If you see all these fancy X-ray machines and MRI machines and all that are there today, most of these have got a server behind them. So these were physical servers which were doing a whole lot of computation for the radiologist to see and certify the report that you get, and you carry it along to your doctor so that he can prescribe something based on the findings there. What we've done is that radiologists are, I think, in the third in the chain of people who are making money in the healthcare side. I think the guys who are making most money now are gastroenterologists. The second ones are the cardiologists. The third ones are radiologists. So they make a lot of money primarily because they're in short supply. So what happens to those hospitals where you don't have a radiologist on board? More importantly, the radiologist cannot work 24/7. So we worked with Philips and we put this entire reporting, and all the computation that required back into the cloud. So we collected this application from the machine and put it into the cloud. And now that thing is now available across the country, across any device, and the radiologist need not be in the same city. Anybody can take a look at it from anywhere. In fact, there are some guys who are looking at doing it from India for US markets. So we solved this problem very well for them. So we got it into the cloud and we solved. But what happens is, this is healthcare. So you bring it into Bangalore, for any reason, let's say we have fire in our office, or our links are down. This is machines, they can fail sometime. We cannot most of the healthcare procedures, I mean, let's say if it's a surgery and all, it cannot proceed if you don't have a proper reports in hand. So we worked with Philips to ensure that we are actually replicating these workloads which are in Bangalore into Mumbai, so that these things are available in the event we have a disaster in Bangalore. So today you can build disaster recovery on cloud not by that traditional methodology where you started looking at application layer, you started looking at database, started looking at smart storage devices which replicate each other, whole lot of other stuff. Typically, a DR implementation used to take about 1.5 times more than what you would implement in a primary data center. So if you want to have a DR infrastructure, I mean, it's typically 2.5 times what a primary infrastructure would have been. Now, all that, because of the way it is implemented today, it can be done in a matter of mouse click. So you can replicate workloads across locations so that you have DR in minutes. You don't need to worry about a whole lot of layers. Everything gets replicated in a matter of minutes. And this thing is done at a far lower cost than what you would have done it traditionally. But you normally don't want to stop there. I mean, what you want to do is that, why wait for a disaster? The best way to handle is you make sure that all your infrastructure is active. So your infrastructure is actually working from multiple locations, not from a single location. And then they are load balanced in such a way that they kind of cater to people on in various geographies at the most efficient manner it is possible. More importantly, what happens is, in the event you have a disaster struck, there is no cold site which is coming up. Basically, there's an active site which is taking over the load. This is what that can be done in a matter of minutes with cloud today. So much for the server infrastructure, right? But what about, so you can really do what you can do on a server in cloud. I can give you more and more examples. But what we can do for the desktop, for the clients, is also pretty important because it's part of the ecosystem. What we've done is we've got something, I mean, we call it Infinite Vault. Basically, what Infinite Vault does is it enables BYOD. You actually are able to replicate data from all the clients. The client could be a PC, it could be a notebook, it could be a tablet, a mobile phone, or anything like that. You replicate all that into a central place so that in the event the client is not available, you can always replace it with a new one and restore back to its original situation. So that's what is possible today. So if you take large banks, I mean, where they have thousands of users across the country and there are thousands of PCs which are being used in the branches, you really don't know what exists in the PC there. Because you can only do so much with the servers that are centrally hosted, but you don't know what is happening on the client. With the Infinite Vault, you're ensuring that your client is secure. This is actually enabling you to build a BYOD network. We also have one more layer, which is virtual desktops. So with virtual desktops, today you can even make a virtual graphic workstation where you can edit videos, you can run fancy applications like Maya, Autodesk 3D and stuff like that. So what is happening is that if you have an enterprise and you don't want to build IT hardware at all, you can do it today. All you need to do is you should let your employees to bring their own devices. As long as that happens, you can actually complete the whole cycle. We can also facilitate certain things around the the regulatory frameworks. Let's say calls. I mean, some of the financial institutions, they have to record and keep the conversations that they have with their clients and store it maybe for about 3 or 5 years. I mean, there are some regulatory limitations there. And most of the bank transactions have to be stored for 8 years. So we've built an archival system so that we are able to actually store this data at a much lower cost. More importantly, we've got algorithms which run on it and scrub the data on a weekly basis to ensure that this data's integrity is protected. So if you look at an enterprise today, there's hardly anything at the infrastructure layer that we can't solve with cloud today. It is more or less everything has been solved and many people are using it. But it's not that we have a case that I can present a customer that, this guy doesn't have any IT infrastructure, is entirely on cloud. We will get there, but it is not technologically impossible for us to do it today. But we thought we'll augment this further. What we did was, in a couple of days back at CeBIT, we launched a product called Clicks. This is for users who are, this is a personal cloud for individuals. Why it came up is that, we are all accumulating a lot of digital content ourselves. It is not just the enterprises that are accumulating digital content. Now, our own digital content is actually growing as rapidly as it is growing at the enterprise layer. I myself have got roughly about 6 USB hard drives full of photographs, music, and a whole lot of other stuff, videos, and a whole lot of stuff that I accumulated over the last 15 years. So if you're looking at the stuff that an individual needs is fairly not very different from what an enterprise requires. So we are trying to make sure that whatever we are learning from the enterprise, we actually bring into and ensure that this is available to the individual as well. So we can do what we can do for the enterprise. We can pick up data across the individual species, whether it's sitting at home or it's a laptop that he's carrying, his tablet and notebook, converge all that data into cloud and ensure that this data is available irrespective of what happens to the device. The device could be upgraded, it could be lost, it could be spoiled, we can bring it back. So this is actually helping people a lot. But what happens in the individual scenario is that you actually share stuff a lot. I mean, so if you've gone on a vacation, you go take a lot of pictures. I mean, you want to share it with your family members, your friends, and stuff like that. So we built the storage in such a manner that this application actually allows you to share content with a whole lot of others. You can create groups and share stuff with groups. Between what I've spoken about in the sense that the server infrastructure that can be very flexible, save cost, and do high performance computing, that very rarely you can actually implement in every enterprise because manpower, technology, and all is reasonably limited in terms of exposure. You can actually build something that is entirely virtual. It is not limited to an enterprise. Today, it is even, it is for the individual as well. So for us now, desktop is virtual and cloud has become personal. With this, basically, I wanted to convey to you that basically, you do not need to own IT infrastructure to actually build a digital enterprise. There are a whole lot of tools that are already available and working for hundreds and thousands of enterprises. These tools you can leverage, and you can actually envisage an enterprise where you don't build it by buying hardware. You actually leverage very elastic, on-demand, and pay-per-use resources that are there available on the cloud. Today, a lot of it which an enterprise can do on the cloud can actually be done by the individual as well. So we have a product called Clicks that we launched here, which I want you to somehow, I mean, if you can drop in by our stall, maybe we can showcase as to what Clicks does. Maybe we could run a small video about Clicks as well. So that's it from my side. If you've got any questions, I have 5 minutes to take them.
Yes, that's a lot. Get rid of your data woes. Break free. Experience Clicks, your secure personal cloud. No more shuffling devices for what you want. Photos clicked with your mobile. Songs on your music player. Personal and official files. That never-ending contact list. Your jam-packed calendar. Store them all in one place, accessible through a single account. No matter where you open the file, you'll be on the last viewed or edited section. Sharing is simple too, regardless of the file size, regardless of the number of people you want to send it to. Just create groups and share all you want. Yes, even movies. Quick and easy. The more friends you invite, the better Clicks gets for you. But most importantly, on clicks, you own your data completely. No one else can access it, but you always can, anytime, anywhere, using any device. Wait, there's more. You can also get your bills, account statements, medical reports, etc. delivered to your account. Instant access guaranteed. Log on now, explore and see how it floats.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Wish you all a very happy clicking. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.